Call the February 7th meeting to order and salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, and justice. for all. Okay, first thing here is to approve the minutes. Andrea, dates on those?
January 17th, right?
January 3rd and 17th.
I'll make a motion to approve both those minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I don't have a lot to report this time around. I have still been working with FEMA on those flood damage projects that we've been going back and forth on. We're pretty close to having them resolved and hopefully getting some reimbursement for the efforts that we put in, and the engineer's still working on a plan for the replacement on West Clove Mountain Road of the bridge. Councilman Derlin, anything?
One thing I'd like to bring up this time is, I wonder if we can add a discussion to the agenda or do it now about keeping the first meeting of the month a work session, and the second meeting legislative session.
No, that's my discretion. And I prefer to have two business meetings.
I'll make that motion. Just to add a discussion to the agenda to discuss the work session and a formal agenda.
We can have the discussion. The meetings are my discretion as supervisor. I put the meetings together. Now, it's kind of pointless to have the discussion because I don't have any intention of going back to a work session. It's going to be two business meetings.
I don't think it hurts to discuss it.
You can discuss it then. Have a motion on the table to amend the agenda.
I made a motion.
Yeah, I'll say.
I thought it went the other way around. All in favor of that the amendment?
Yes.
What's the amendment, to discuss it or
To
change?
discuss going back to the work session.
If there's any point in it, I'll vote yes, but.
It's
Right.
just for the discussion. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, so we'll add that, after the driver safety class. Is that the extent of your report? Councilman McGivney?
Don't have much this month. I know we had a few meetings with different departments. Was excited to hear about the Valentine's for Veterans that our town clerk is putting together. I'm sure she's going to touch more on that during her town clerk report. That's all I have.
Okay, Councilman Welsh?
The only thing I would like to mention is our recycling guys had some training today regarding used batteries, especially batteries that are potentially fire hazards. So they were some training on how to stow them over there so they're away from things and not a hazard, and keep it as safe as possible.
Okay, Councilman Carlini?
I just wanted to talk about, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the library board, the board of trustees to discuss the library and the way Unionville was handling it at this point. The library also did ask the board to send a letter to the Mid-Hudson Library Group in regards to getting some restrictions lifted. So I would ask if we could discuss that tonight's agenda, add that as a discussion as well. To discuss the library asking us to send a letter to Mid-Hudson Library System in regards to getting the restrictions lifted. They thought it would help getting the restriction lifted. So I'm gonna make a motion to add that to the agenda after the adding of the discussion of the work sessions and formal agendas. Have a second.
Okay, we'll add library discussion to the agenda. Any opposition on that? That'll follow then the, discussion on the meeting.
Yep. And then, just one more thing that as you know, I was the planning board chairman for the last 4 years, and as we were finishing up the year last year, we had a couple of issues come up within, the regards to the TC zone code. There's a couple of things that need to be cleaned up in the little code, especially with some of the applications that we have currently in front of the planning board. So that's another thing that I would like to discuss today, are three things that came up between the planning board, discussions on, three changes to the code in regards to the TC zone, and changes that were updated. So I'd again like to make a motion to add that to the agenda to discuss that after the discussion regarding the library.
And these came from who?
Came from when I was the chairman of the planning board, and it's things that are still actively in front of the planning board. And I've also spoken to Alan about it. I've spoken to Jim Nelson about it. I spoke to Nan Stolzenberg about it too. And everybody seems to be on the same page. And, you know, we can go into more detail a little bit later on. I don't want to clog up the, meeting reports with that.
No, he made a motion to add a third item to the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And that's my report.
Okay, highway superintendent has some family obligations. And couldn't make the meeting, and I would like to make a motion then to table the discussion on the excavator purchase to the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Town clerk report?
Yes, thank you, Councilman McGivney. We are going to do an event on Saturday here, February 10th, called Valentine's for Veterans. So I'm teaming up with Virgil Capillari, who is one of the veteran advocates for the area. And myself and the town clerk for Beekman, Lorraine Abitantuono, will be taking them to one of the selected veterans places that Virgil will recommend to us for, you know, some cheer and hopefully just lift everybody's spirits. So everyone is welcome to join in the community. It is February 10th, Saturday, from 10 to 12 here at Town Hall. Thank
10
you.
to 12.
Yeah, 10 a.m. to noon.
So all veterans are welcome. especially-
Oh, yeah, veterans are welcome. Town of Beekman residents, Unionville, LaGrange, everyone's welcome.
Very
And all the
nice.
supplies will be provided as well. So you just have to show up and make a card.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, on to public comment on agenda items, please. Excuse me. Yes,
I guess I can,
if you want to step over to the podium there, please. Just name and address, just for the record, please.
I bear both.
Thank you.
I have some questions and concerns about plans for the library. First of all, a copy of a chart I made about 2% rate increase proposal for library services that was sent to Betsy Moss and the town board by Kathy Weller, president of Milford Library, in an email on February 11, 2020. It's being shared with you because it seems that the Mid-Hudson Library Service 4-member libraries have been unnecessarily vilified regarding the increase. Perhaps seeing the actual amount and comparing it to what we are starting to pay, since we are starting to pay more for library services, would be helpful. The bottom line shows if we were still using the Mid-Hudson Library Service, we would be paying a total of $84,360 for 2024. But since our town board decided to do it alone, it will cost our town $237,000 for this year, a difference of about $150,000. Two, Betsy Moss, in at least one of her presentations, said she wanted the voters to decide whether to have a new library for our town or to continue paying a fee to the Mid-Hudson Library Service. However, she did not let the voters decide because anytime some of us tried to let the voters decide, she interfered with the process and corrupted the results. She also said she wanted the silent majority to have their way, and I guess they did, because the silent majority did not re-elect her to be town supervisor. The library was not an issue for any of the candidates, but the voters knew how the candidates felt about the library situation. Three, it seems to me that the library trustees should slow down the purchasing of large items for the library. The barn that is to be renovated is over 50 years old and not only has a leaky roof that needs to be replaced, but also may need reinforcement to carry the extra load of being outfitted for a library. Has it been thoroughly evaluated by an engineer to make sure it will be safe? Where will the recreation department put the campers if it is done in the summer? Where will the other groups or departments go? Contractors usually do not let anyone not connected with the job be near the work site due to liability issues. The structural strength of the barn could be a problem. 4, who on the town board is monitoring the money that is being spent by the library trustees? Dr. Watson at the library meeting with the town board was unwilling to answer a question from our town supervisor when he wanted to know how much the consultant was being paid. After a lot of hesitation from the trustees, Supervisor Frazier finally got an answer. But this money is provided by the taxpayers, and the information about the costs should be public information. And lastly, if the charter does not come through when you want it to, what are you going to do? I hope you've thought about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it an agenda item topic? Sure, go ahead.
My name's Chuck Richwan, Burbank, up in Burbank. I've heard a lot about the Mid-Hudson Library Association. As a person who went to college in the 70s and 80s, I got to use the library a lot. I put 3 children through the SUNY system. Only one ever used the library. I have a grandson which goes to Millbrook, Elm Drive. And when I've gone into the library with him in Millbrook, there are more employees than customers. Hardly a successful business. I understand that people like the library. There's probably people out there that still like steam locomotives and telegraph offices. But in a Google world, having 3 kids go through the SUNY system, the need for the Mid-Hudson Library Association is probably diminishing every day. Right? For those that turn around and say, well, a lot of people go up to the library and read the New York Times. I've been there on the weekends when it should be busy up in Millbrook, and nobody's there reading the New York Times. I actually find it easier to read it online than to travel up to Millbrook to read the New York Times. So I think we're just, spinning our wheels when technology is evolving and making some things obsolete. You'd also have to wonder whether or not it'd be cheaper to buy books on Amazon for all our customers rather than support the library. Maybe a little cost, maybe a better cost and probably get it there faster. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to resolution 2024-7, which is the contractors. I sent you all the 2 IT companies that had responded to the RFP that I sent out. Excuse me. Their quotes were essentially the same. One was more detailed than the other. With that in mind, I'd like to make a motion that we contract with Roberts IT Consulting for our IT services here in Unionville. Have a second on that?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to have a little discussion about that. Have we done any vetting on either of them yet?
I'm very familiar with Roberts. His resume stated that he's been doing this municipal work for 3 different municipalities for 16 years. I have witnessed 15 years of that. And they are the IT provider for town of Wappinger, where I've been working. And we have never had a single IT problem there. The system, I'm confident, is absolutely secure from the outside world. I can highly recommend that, the company that they are.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
No.
Okay, so motion's on the floor, been seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you.
In regards to 7 still, are we still not designated attorney?
Not yet.
Okay, I mean, I think that we've had plenty of discussions in regards to this attorney. As you know, there's been plenty of emails that I've sent to you regarding the attorney and the person that we interviewed. And I think there's a bunch of conflicts. I also was made aware that there was a letter sent to you from our town justice in regards to the appointment of an attorney.
Correct. And the prosecutor,
Yeah, and the prosecutor.
right.
So, I haven't seen a copy of that. I'm not sure if you're gonna let the rest of the board see that,
I can send it out to you.
if you could, because, I mean, I think with everything that's come up, the two options we had, which were Ian Landers and
Well,
Jeff
you've
Battistone.
had conflicts with the present attorney as well and had to go to outside agencies when those conflicts prevented him from representing the town. So, you know, we have a temporary condition here that some of you are uncomfortable with. That condition is going to expire fairly soon. And from that point on, then I feel much more comfortable with the firm that I had recommended.
I mean, I mean, we don't have a town attorney tonight, which I think is also an issue. I'm not
For
sure
what
why.
reason?
Because who knows what questions we might ask, you know, if, when we get to the other things that we discussed in regards to the work session and the formal, you know, meeting, and those are things that an attorney could definitely give us an answer to tonight, so, you know, we could definitely be more informed in our decisions. So I think not having an attorney appointed is becoming a
Well, the
problem.
attorney is available to us, but I didn't see the need to have him sit here on the clock at a meeting that really, there isn't anything in here that, you know, or would have legal questions.
Yeah, and,
It's, you know, to me, that's a waste of the taxpayers' money.
and I understand, and I also understand that, I have a problem with Ian even after the conflict is done because of things that were said to us and in our.
Well, that's your opinion.
I agree. So that's why I'm gonna make a motion to appoint Jeff Battistone, the attorney for the town of Unionville for 2024. I have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
That's my job. I can handle this, Pat, believe me.
Go ahead.
All in favor? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cardelemi?
Aye.
Councilman Welsh?
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier?
Nay.
Excuse me, Councilman McGivney?
Okay.
Councilman Derland?
Aye.
Any other discussion on 2024-7? Okay, update 2024-8. The zoning board of appeals will reinstate Dennis Dunning to his term that will expire in 2028.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Question, just again about this resolution. Are we gonna do anything with the CAC yet? I know we don't have a chair yet of the CAC,
We haven't done the interviews yet.
so we
We're
have,
gonna work on those next Friday.
okay, perfect.
Okay, discussion of town hall hours. I provided you with a copy of the resolution that specified what the town hall hours are. And that's what they have been for a number of years here. There's a bit of a problem that the hours don't add up to 32 hours, which is what our employee handbook determines to be full-time employment here at town of Unionville. The building, planning and zoning offices from 8:30 to 4 works out to be 7 hours a day and a total of 28 hours for the week. Then the finance and HR offices is 7.5 hours a day to be 30 hours a week. So we have a bit of a problem here that they don't match up.
But do the hours of town hall actually translate to what the workload is? You know, they could come in sometimes a half an hour before.
Yeah, a lot of those people are part-time.
Or,
Right,
Or a
yeah,
half an
well,
hour after.
yeah, but the thing is, they don't have the opportunity here unless they do come in on off hours.
Yeah.
To meet the requirement for the full-time status.
Right, so I guess the question is, do the actual town hall hours, are those the only hours?
That's when the
that-
work
that's
gets done.
credited to them, well, unless they come in, I mean.
Well-
And do you work hours outside of town hall hours?
I mean, I do, but I'm
I know you're,
Yeah.
you're
She's an
different, but-
elected official.
I know she is, but I'm just saying, in general, the people come in, maybe not necessarily you.
I know George works on Fridays. I
Yeah.
know George does.
Right.
So the building planning and zoning office, so I know George works probably more than that 28 hours. I think he is here before 8:30 anyway. So,
Usually is, yeah.
yeah, so I think that's where that full-time, part-time thing kind of conflicts because the town hall hours, like you say, Steve, are correct. They're below full-time.
right.
But I think people are working up
Well-
beyond those hours. So how do we codify that?
Part of the issue is not, is that they have, some of the employees are not meeting their required hours. And that's making an issue then on paid time off. Because the program that we use wants to credit them for the full day. But they haven't, that they don't actually work that full day in reality.
Yeah.
And that's where, I was approached by payroll with this, for that reason. So, they haven't earned, in theory, they haven't earned the credits that the paychecks program is showing.
All right, so what's the solution?
That's why I wanted to have this
What are you
discussion.
proposing?
I'm not, I don't, well, there's two options here. We either change the hours, the working hours to meet the 32-hour requirement, or we change the 32-hour requirement.
So do you know if the payroll system does it by day? Is that how it starts to calculate the PTO? So, they clocked in for 4 days, so it gives them, this much PTO, or is it by the hour? It starts to count up, once it gets 32 hours, then it deposits them, how many hours of PTO.
I would have to look into that to find out for certain. No, I'm not comfortable answering that right now.
Yeah. Because I think that would help to know. And then if we have to work it to working hours, I mean, I guess it's really how the payroll system reports it. So it would be helpful to know.
All right, so I'll
It
have to,
sounds like to me, I mean, maybe we could just say whatever the town hall hours are, that's a full day. We have all already agreed that that's a full day of work. We passed those hours as being a full day of work. It just- instead of-
yeah, I
instead
think
of
also
weekly-
that we should probably standardize the hours through the offices. And, if George comes in earlier, but, he's always available at those hours, but we have some that are not available. Now, of course, the tax collector is seasonal. And has Saturday hours
And
where
there's
the rest of them
electrical
don't,
as well.
right? But these, the other standard offices, probably, we should have a standard business hours here.
Makes sense. So everybody knows when they're
Yeah,
coming here.
I don't think that we need to have a decision tonight, but, let's
about it.
chew on this a little bit and, we'll come back to it then at the next meeting.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, we have had AARP come to us and offer to provide a safe driving program to our residents. There's a discount of $5 to AARP members, which brings it to $25, and then $30 for non-members. The result is a safer driving environment and credit on their insurance for our residents. Just wanted to run that past the board here that you're all in favor of having this go forward. I'll make the arrangements with recreation and on scheduling.
Sounds like a great
So,
idea.
Yeah.
People get reduction in their insurance rate.
Right, yeah,
Every little bit
10% it
helps.
says here, yeah.
Of course, that's only on, probably on liability or something. It's not on everything, but still,
Right,
it's money saved.
sure is. So, motion to approve this course to go forward,
I'll make a motion.
second,
Second.
all in favor,
All right,
opposed? Okay, Carrie, thank you. I'll let her know then.
do you know how many hours the class is?
No, exactly. I didn't see that on here. I'm
Alright,
trying to
whatever.
remember. I think they're usually like 4-hour classes. I
Okay,
think.
so like one day would cover.
If possible, I'm not gonna commit to that.
Okay, just curious.
Okay, you wanted to discuss the library
We have the work session, the library, and
work
the
session?
3 teaching
Yeah, okay, go
sessions.
ahead.
I mean, I just bring up the work session idea because I think that one really worked well. in the past. Instead of, kind of gobbling up our time trying to come up with a legislative session, I think that those brainstorming meetings really helped us kind of all wrap our head around, just like the issue we were just talking about, like town hall hours. We really could dive into it during the work session instead of trying to move along the legislative session. I don't know, food for thought. I thought that worked really well for us. It seemed like we got a lot done during the work session that not everybody needed to hear or see. And then, we were all on the same page. We could really figure out what we were doing moving forward for the legislative session.
And I know in other municipalities that I've seen with board meetings, they've even done the beginning of the meeting as a work session. And then if there are votes or things that need to be discussed, updating of resolutions, they would do that at a smaller formal session at the end of the meeting. I mean, as you can tell, most of our agenda tonight is discussions anyway. We only have the two things to update resolutions from before. So, I mean, in my opinion, the way it looks is basically most of this is basically technically a work session agenda, except for the two updating of resolutions that we're technically voting on things.
So what difference does it make what we call it?
I don't know, just the way that it was structured the last time when we just came in for discussion, we sat down, we
Oh.
kind of dive into it. It seemed to work better for what we're doing. I'm bringing it up as a point from past experience with the way things.
Well, I was on the board as well during that time, so I didn't agree with it, and I had asked back then to convert back to 2 business meetings. Any other discussion on this? Okay, you wanted to discuss the library.
Yeah, so as I said before, we had a meeting with the library, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, or a week ago. A lot of discussion back and forth in regards to a lot. Ultimately, at the meeting, the library discussed with us, the board, that they had sent a letter to the Mid-Hudson Library System asking for Unionville to be taken off the restriction list. Because of things that have changed, things that have been updated since the restriction was added. One of the things that they added to us was asking that the town board send a letter to the Mid-Hudson Library System, again, requesting the same thing for the restriction to be lifted. They said that it would do a lot towards getting that restriction lifted and being able to have Unionville residents have access to the library system again. There could be a cost associated with that, from what I've discussed with the board members on the library, which could come out of the library budget depending on exactly what it was, but it could restore services and start the discussion again to be added to the Mid-Hudson Library System as we are chartering our own library. So I don't see where it would hurt for us as a board to send a letter to the Mid-Hudson Library System asking if they'll sit down and talk and maybe see if we can work out something to take the restriction off of the Unionville residents, and to start the discussion up again. And who knows, maybe it'll end up with us, getting back in the Mid-Hudson Library System as our charter goes forward and, restoring the services. So I just wanted to have a discussion tonight about maybe us talking about that and kind of coming as a board together to draft a letter to vote on to be able to send to the Mid-Hudson Library System.
Well, that's a point that I have brought up numerous times as I was on the town board and then since as well. And I brought that up at the meeting last week as well, that our residents, in spite of their efforts, are still locked out of the neighboring libraries. And I had suggested that as well. So I have no objection to working with them on trying to negotiate on getting our residents back into Mid-Hudson Library System.
I'm glad. So I think that we can hopefully, start to work on that all together.
Good.
Okay.
Who was next?
And then the next was the TC zone change. So we have a couple applications and that have been in front of the town, in front of the planning board over the last couple of months. And some that are still pending in front of the planning board. There's 3 things that have come up that have been a problem in regards to the town center zone change and the zone change in general. First one, pretty simple going forward, pretty easy thing to dive into. Minor subdivisions, anything that has a common driveway triggers a major subdivision. And it's causing a lot of issues in regards to our smaller properties that are trying to subdivide.
Just
Where-
strictly in town, on town center?
It's technically everywhere. It's so the code was updated for minor subdivisions that anything that has any minor subdivision that shares a common driveway triggers a major subdivision, which creates a whole lot more burden on the applicant. So I'll give you one application that was just in front of the town, in front of the planning board that pulled out right now was the Ferrises. They have two pieces of property, one on one side of the street and another one under power lines. And so it's split by power lines. So one of the issues that comes up is to get to the back lot, you either have to create one flag lot or you have to go through another lot. So the issue that comes out is now they have to do a major subdivision and they have to do a conservation subdivision, but since it's on two different sides of power lines, it becomes a horrible plan to try to work out. So that became a big issue with that application, as well as the one on the bottom of Brusville. The name keeps slipping my mind. Arnold,
Yeah.
same thing with bad sight distances and the bad entry on a county road. There was only really one access point. And that application got dropped too because of the same thing. So I think there needs to be a little bit of discussion on that. I talked to Jim Nelson and Nat Stolzenberg, the planner, about it. They both agree that that's something that we should definitely look at as a town board to discuss further to look into.
Isn't it true she's the one who directed us along these lines?
Yeah, so
And did it not come up by the applicant when the zoning was being changed?
it didn't. And that was one of the problems, you know, and when you talk to Jim and I talked to Nat about it, and a lot of things that happen when you do a lot of zone changes is you think of everything, at least you think of everything. Then when the application actually comes in front of you, you're like, oh, I see how that now creates
Right,
a
so
problem.
this was like a loophole.
It was, yeah, it was the thing that now we're starting to see coming up with problems.
Okay.
So that's one of the issues. The second issue is the issue, and I think 4 of you were present at this meeting with the Fire Advisory Council. Fire Advisory Council, which is an advisory board to the planning board,
Yeah.
requested 26-foot roads in the Bonavini development that's trying to be built. The town code only allows 20-foot roads. And the reasoning behind that through the process was we're looking for more country rural roads. But the Fire Advisory Council, with lots of input, and I think great input, advised that the bigger roads are better for the equipment to get through, especially with townhomes. They're going to be 2 stories tall with
Yeah.
attics, and they're going to be tall when the support equipment coming through. So what that does now to the Bonavini application is they either have to go for a variance to the ZBA, or they have to come to the town board for a zone change. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because the Bonavinas aren't going to be the only application that's going to come in front of the planning board. There's going to be other ones, and the Fire Advisory Council is going to give their input again. And I would assume it's going to be the same input. Any of the roads that are going to be coming in are going to need to be 26 feet wide. So I think while we have this, and I think we could head it off before we send in every applicant to the ZBA for a variance for road widths.
Or change the town zoning to make them all 26.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
So
that would make the most sense,
To
Yeah.
allow up to.
to allow up to 26.
because you gotta consider snow, parking,
Not the
and,
first one.
you know, all these delivery vans, everybody's got deliveries anymore. They're always blocking roads.
Yeah. So that's my second point, and I think it makes a lot of sense for us to just head at it now, hit it off before it becomes a bigger problem with more applications and the planning board and the applicants get delayed even more.
Okay.
The third thing that we ran into, which isn't a problem with Bonavina because it worked out, is the wording on the 2,500 square foot maximum footprint for buildings. Okay, it works out fine for the Bonavina application because each townhouse is considered its own building, so they're less than 2,500 square feet. But in the code, we allow 12-unit multifamily housing. And the way the code reads now, that can only be done in one 2,500 square foot building. So there's no way you're putting 12 units in a 2,500 square foot building.
Mhm.
So the definition or the restriction on the 2,500 square foot, the wording, I think needs to be revisited to
Yeah.
make sure we catch the intent and not restrict everybody.
Yeah, makes sense.
So those are the 3 things that, I can work on with the rest of the board and give you the sections of the code that it references. And you can work on changing the way the wording is on that. So that's what I wanted to discuss.
All right,
tonight in
thanks
regards
for
to that.
bringing that up. That's good information. Yeah, you always have to fine tune any major zoning changes, but
Yeah, and like when I talked to Nat and Jim about it, they said that we caught these now, who knows what we might catch with other applications. There might be more that does come up. So it's just very common for something like this to happen.
All right.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Hey, anything else to discuss? Okay, public comments on town issues. Anyone? Okay, motion to pay the bills,
So moved.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. Next meeting, I think, is the 20th,
Right, 2 weeks from today.
right? 7:30 here.
21st.
21st.
Is it
yeah,
the 21st?
21st.
Okay, yeah, figured it was one of those. Didn't look at the calendar.
It's all right.
But yeah, I'll have pricing and options on the roof repairs that we need to do here for you at that point. And a couple other things that are in the works I'll bring forward to you and let you know what's going
All right, thanks.
on. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.